So anyways, that was the part I couldn't move, which kind of sucks because like I had a contraction and it just so I just had to breathe through it and kind of grit my teeth, you know. But then after that, I was like, she told me, "Oh, it's done," and I was like, "Really?" I just assumed it was going to be some sort of epic um, feeling, like I just all of a sudden knew I had an epidural. I guess I don't know. She's like, "Oh, it's done," and I was like, "Okay, well, how long will it take?" Because they were getting a bit stronger. I'm like, "Well, between 15 to 30 minutes." I was like, "Okay, I can do that." They stayed in the room. They had to monitor my blood pressure because I guess sometimes it can kind of lower it, which wasn't a problem in my case because um, throughout the whole induction process, my blood pressure was running kind of on the high side. Not crazy high, but enough to where my little alarm would alarm saying, "Hey, her blood pressure is slightly high," you know. Anyway, so they stayed to make sure that it would started working, and then that my blood pressure was fine, baby was fine, and all that. So it started working about a half hour later, and it was kind of I don't know how to explain it. I didn't feel the contractions in my back anymore, and I didn't feel them in the sides. I was getting them in like the sides of my stomach. I didn't feel that. All I felt was a pressure down in my like lower region whenever I have a contraction, and it wasn't bad. In fact, like after they left, I took a nap for like 2 or 3 hours, I think, and just kind of slept through it. So, yeah, it really wasn't that bad, and I was so thankful for the epidural. The pictures, it's so funny. You can kind of see in the pictures that we did get where I was starting to hurt. My pictures, I looked like I was like, ugh, like kill me now. And then once I got the epidural, I was smiling, I was happy, I was playing on like the computer tablet, Uh, it was just a good day. So about right around midnight, an alarm sounded, and it said that, and basically the alarm, and we were told prior to this that when the alarm sounded, we needed to call the nurse because it was saying that I had 15 minutes left of the epidural drip, and then after that, it goes about 15 to 30 minutes of numbness longer before the epidural completely wears off. So we called the nurse. They called the on-call anesthesiologist. When someone's in labor, the anesthesiologist stays there. So she was bedded down, and it was funny because every time we called her, she'd come and her hair would be kind of like, eh. You could tell she'd been sleeping, and I felt kind of bad, but not really. So it sounded, and I was like, call mom, call, because there was no way in heck I was gonna like have to have it like redone or not have pain meds or something. Because by this point, um, I could tell the contractions were really starting to get strong without even looking at the monitor because the pressure was so much more intense. And it wasn't painful really, but it was definitely uncomfortable and I couldn't sleep through it. Just that lower pressure, but still, I wasn't feeling anything else. Uh, and I could still move my legs and everything. It was kind of neat. I thought like I wouldn't be able to, but I could move my legs. My skin felt kind of weird, like a little tingly, like my limbs were asleep. Not on my arms, obviously, but my legs. Anyway, so they went and they upped it, and about 15 minutes after they refilled the juice, I was like, this is weird, because I was feeling pressure in my left side, but not in my right. Like my right, well, I should say my right, I felt like a little tiny bit of pressure, and then my left was just really intense, and I was like, this is odd. So I called the nurse, and I was like, is this supposed to be uneven? Because the first one worked great. And so she called the lady back in, and they gave me, I'm not even sure what it was, but they had like a syringe that they put directly into the epidural line. full of something to like help. So yeah. Okay. Um. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Okay, it started to work, and it was just back to having that pressure. And then they checked me again while they were there, and I was 8 centimeters. And when I'd have a contraction, I would stretch to 9. So so that was like a big jump because, like, you know, and I didn't have this written down in my notes. I think it was like kind of a hectic moment or whatever. At some point between the 3 centimeters and the 9 centimeters, I was checked and I was 5, and they told me it would start speeding up, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So it did. Instead of dilating a centimeter every like 4 hours, I was dilating a centimeter every like 2. Anyways, I was 9 centimeters, and yeah, and then I was checked just like a half hour later or so, and I was a 9 for sure now, like definitely a 9, even when I wasn't contracting. They told me to rest and relax as much as possible because pretty soon I'd be having a baby. So I got really excited. It's like, yes, they told me the doctor was guessing that between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'd have him. So that was between uh, what was it? 20. Oh, I can't. Sorry. I got there at 7, so like less than 24 hours I would have him. So in like 23 hours, like no more than 23 hours, I would have him. That's what the doctor was guessing of total labor. So, and I was already at, by this point, I was at like 16 hours, I think, something like that. 16 or 17, I don't know. So I was like, okay, this is good, I can do this. So at 2:15, they checked me again, and they told me it was time to practice push. And I didn't understand what the practice push was because I thought a push was a push. And they were telling me basically once you're dilated to a 10, you have to push the baby into like basically like the birth canal, and then the doctor comes, and then we have the baby. So I was just going to be working on pushing him down. So it was like practice pushing. And by that point, I was starting to feel a ton of pressure. Like the pressure was definitely turning to that pain point. Again, nothing in my back or sides, but the pressure down below was just way intense. So, and I assumed it was normal. After a few of the practice pushes, they told me they wanted to change my position and see if I would make any progress that way, because he would just kind of come down and then nothing. So they put me into what they called the queen position. So they sat the back of my bed straight up, and they lowered the bottom of my bed down. So I was sitting like pretty much just like I would like a desk chair, like straight up. I had my legs down, knees bent, just sitting there in the throne, So as soon as they did that, the pressure got even worse because everything was weighted down, on that area. And they told me, I had to sit there for 20 minutes, and I ended up begging them to put me back down before the 20 minutes were up because I just couldn't do it. It hurt so bad. And I started to kind of panic because I'm thinking, this hurts a lot, and I have an epidural in. So yeah, they laid me back down after I complained enough, and I had to do some more pushing. And they told me they basically wanted the baby to be crowning before the doctor came in. And that's when I started to feel my contractions. I'd feel this insane pain, and then I'd also feel pain in my sides again. Pain in my sides was duller than it had been, but I was feeling it, and I was definitely starting to feel them. Uh, so, um, the contractions were coming really hard, and I couldn't get like a rest in between them because they'd have me push about 3 times in a contraction, and they were coming fairly fast. So, and I was like begging them to fix the epidural or something. I kept telling them that it was. I started telling them that it was not working because I was starting to feel contractions. I was freaking out. And I think at first they thought it was just the pressure, and they were trying to explain to me that as a first-time mom, they needed me to feel the pressure. They couldn't completely numb me because I wouldn't know how to push otherwise, because I needed to feel where I needed to push. And I'm like, no, I understand the pressure. I don't like it. I understand why I need that, but I am feeling other pain now. So, yeah. Next part.